Hello, hello. We are starting a new topic. We are moving away from decimals and we are going to be talking about angles. Okay, there are lots of different kinds of angles, and we're going to make a chart to keep in our notebooks. So if you do not have your notebook with you, I want you to stop what you're doing. I want you to hit pause on this. I want you to go get a piece of paper and a pencil. If you have colored pencils and want to make it fancy, feel free to get those too. Okay, while you guys were getting paper, I wanted to get a little fancy. So we are going to be talking about the types of angles, and there are 4 types. So I made this cute little thing with 4 sections. If you don't want to be all fancy, you do not have to. So as we talk about these 4 types of angles, I want you to take notes with me, okay? Because this is what we are mainly going to be talking about. You need to be able to tell me the name of these angles when you see them. And then we're going to start talking about the measurement of angles, and that part is new. We've talked about types of angles a little bit this year. Okay, we've gone over them, we've discussed them, but we have not talked about the measurement, and that is the part that I want you really paying attention to. Okay, so at the top, we're going to be talking about an acute angle. An acute angle has a measure between 0 and 90 degrees. You see this little bitty circle thing? This means degrees. It's the same symbol that we use when we're talking about temperature. If you're talking about it being 20 degrees outside, you're still going to use that little circle. In angles and in geometry, when we use this to measure, that's how far something goes. Okay? We could take a straight line and draw each little way that you can move a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. And each one of those is a degree of movement. Okay, and we will talk about that. So right now, we're not panicking. I don't know what degrees means. I don't know what acute angle means. No, we're just going to make the notes, and then we're going to dig in to talk about it. So just stay with me. Keep notes with me. Okay? I started here because I want you to see this word. We're going to come to the middle, and I'm going to talk about this word. Okay? What is an angle? And then we're going to talk about all the other kinds. So an angle, let me use different colors so you can see it. An angle is formed by 2 rays that have the same end point. We call an endpoint a vertex. Okay, and you're going, that's more confusing than it was when we started. Here's what that means. A ray is a line with a stopping place. See that? Here's my line. Here's where it stops. This is not a line. A line goes on forever both ways. A ray stops. So right here's where it stops. An angle is 2 rays that come together in the same stopping place. So this one stops here. Let's say I draw one that stops here. This is now an angle, and this is an angle. Okay? When I hold my hand up, if you'll notice, I have an angle at the corner of my hand. Okay? If I was out playing sports, which is very unlikely, but if I was and I broke my thumb and they looked at my hand and the angle went like this, and my thumb's going backward, they'd say, wow, her thumb's at a weird angle. We might need to take her and have that x-rayed. Okay? We use this word right here a lot. When Carlos is doing construction, he's talking about the angles that he has to put boards together at. If you look around your house right now, the corners of your doors, the corners where 2 of your walls might meet, okay, all of these places are going to have angles. All right, and that is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the place where 2 rays meet. These can be really big. They can be like our L's. It can be a straight line. If I had one that was here, here's a ray, and then this one just touched up against it, it's straight. But it's this ray and this ray. Well, now this is my angle. Okay, that's what I'm talking about with these 4 different kinds. The different types of angles are just how they look within the rays. So an acute angle, and I've got little spots all over my paper now where it went through. An acute angle is where the 2 rays connect, but it's less than 90 degrees. 90 degrees are called right angles. We talk about those a lot. We talked about those some last year. Those are your L's. Those are your doors, the corners of your paper, okay? Right here in the letter T. All right, so the only one we've talked about so far is an acute angle. Our next one is a right angle. Here's a ray. Here's a ray. This one's usually marked with a square because it can make up the 2 sides of a square. This one doesn't work that way. This makes almost like a curved triangle. It does not work to make a square like a right angle does. A right angle has a measure of 90 degrees. What does that degree mean? Don't worry about it. We'll talk to you about that later. Just make sure you have this in your notes. Today is taking notes. Today is determining if we can look at this word acute and have this picture pop in our head. Can we see the word right and have this picture pop in our head? Do we know that an angle is 2 rays put together? That's what I'm worried about today. That's what we're talking about today. Okay? All right, the next one is the other type that we've already talked about. I told you that some of these are not going to be new. These are going to be things you've already seen. These are going to be things we have already talked about in class. I'm trying to find a different color. Y'all know how I am. Let's see. All right, this one. Here's one of the rays. Here's the other ray. Okay. When I look at these and I compare these 3 angles together, I notice something. And here's what I notice. I'm going to point it out to you. When I come up here to the acute angle, if I turn this into a right angle, boom, right there's my L. This one is smaller than a right angle. This would be like if you didn't open your door all the way up. Okay? It's a right, this is your right angle. Acute one is smaller than that. That's why the measure is between 0 and 90. 90 would be this angle or smaller. So when I look at the obtuse, which is the name of this one, I see kind of a different pattern. If I were to draw my right angle on top of this one, it would come here. So an obtuse is actually bigger than a right angle. So an obtuse angle has a measure between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. This is not how hot this angle is, it's how far it moves. Okay, I'm going to show you what these measures mean before we stop today. We're not going to do anything with them today, but I am going to show you what they're talking about when you see that. All right, the last one that I want us to do is a straight angle. So that was the example that I showed you where this ray is going this direction and this ray is going this direction and they meet in the middle. Your angle would be here, okay? A straight angle has a measure of 180 degrees. So when we think about this one where it's between 90 and 180, any angle that comes from here to here, the line could be here, 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 here. Okay, it's not quite an L. It's not quite a right angle, but it's also not a straight line. Okay. All right, now I've been showing you all these things with degrees, and you're going, well, it's not temperature, but it uses the same thing. What in the world are you talking about? I'm going to show you the tool that we use to measure angles. The tool is called a protractor. Okay, and it is used, the only purpose of this is to measure angles. So let's say that I had an angle. I'm just going to draw. Now, hopefully I drew this good enough that it will work with the protractor. When I look at this in my head, I go, that's a right angle. Okay, so in my notes, it said a right angle has a measure of 90 degrees. So I'm going to take this little circle right here and this little line right here. I'm going to try to line it up best I can. And if you look, when I follow this line, what number did I hit? I hit 90, which tells me that this is 90 degrees. And if I was measuring this, I would say this angle is 90 degrees, which means it is a right angle. Okay, I could come over here. It really doesn't matter what my angle looks like. I can always measure it using a protractor. So I'm going to line this bottom number up. This protractor has a little hole in the middle of it. I don't know if all of them do, but it's very handy. So I'm going to put this right on the corner, and I'm covering up my pink line. Do you see that? With my protractor. I want that to be as straight as I can. Now, this is where it gets tricky. In class, I would have us using a ruler here. Okay, I don't have one with me, so I'm going to do my very best to straighten this out. Okay, that's not very straight, but we'll pretend. That's going to bother me. Let me see. That's better. Okay, so this angle is around, it's not perfect because y'all saw my drawing. It's around 110 degrees. So I would go to my chart and I'd say 110 degrees, okay? Between 0 and, no, it's not an acute angle. It's not 90. It's not 180. It's 110. It's obtuse. Do you see that? It's bigger than this one, but it is not quite a straight line. It comes between a right angle and a straight angle, okay? I know this is new. I know some of you are looking at this going, I don't know what to do. Don't worry about not knowing all the how to do this. That's what we're here for. What I do want you to do is make sure you have this copied down. If you need to pause this, take your time. Make sure this is in your notebook. Make sure you have these pictures to go with it. And for the next little bit, this is what we're going to be talking about is what are these angles? How do we find these angles? And how do we measure these angles? All right. I love you guys. Stay safe.